This anime follows the story of Hajime Nagumo, an ordinary student who finds himself unexpectedly thrust into a strange, alternate world known as Isekaied. Unlike typical stories, where only a hero is summoned, Hajime's friends, classmates, and teachers all join him in this new realm. Their task is to explore the labyrinth, a massive, dangerous structure filled with powerful monsters. However, Hajime quickly finds himself isolated as he lacks any impressive skills or abilities, causing others to view him as weak and useless. During an expedition deep within the labyrinth, an unforeseen betrayal occurs. Someone in the group orchestrates an accident that forces Hajime to fend for himself in the depths of the labyrinth. This betrayal leaves him in a near-hopeless situation. Although he possesses a sword, Hajime lacks the strength and skill to use it effectively. While struggling to survive, he encounters Kaori Shirasaki, a compassionate classmate who checks on him after a monster attack. Not long after, Hajime notices a sparkling crystal embedded in the cave ceiling. Commander Meld Loggins, their leader, identifies the crystal as the Glance Crystal, a rare and valuable gem, especially in such a large form. One of the group members attempts to climb up to claim it, ignoring Commander Meld's warnings not to touch it. As soon as they come into contact with the crystal, it turns red, triggering a sudden, involuntary teleportation that transports the entire group to a dangerous, unfamiliar location. Their new surroundings reveal a grim challenge. A horde of living skeletons appears, and soon after, a massive monster called the Behemoth joins the fray. Commander Meld realizes they've stumbled into a trap and orders everyone to retreat. However, before they can escape, they're forced to confront the skeletons and the Behemoth in battle. Amidst the chaos, Kaori falls and the Behemoth charges toward her. Desperate to protect his team, Commander Meld casts a powerful shield spell, but when the Behemoth attacks, it shatters the shield and sends Commander Meld flying. Hajime tries to help by using his transmutation skill to create rocks around Behemoth's feet, buying his team a little time to escape. He urges Commander Meld to retreat with the others while he holds off the monster. Carrying the injured Kaori, Commander Meld leads the others away. Meanwhile, Hajime continues to hold the Behemoth back using transmutation. Unfortunately, the monster starts smashing through the rocks, drawing closer to Hajime. In a final attempt to save his friends, Hajime moves toward the bridge that connects to the main group, but a stray light attack from the battle above hits him, destroying the bridge and sending both him and the Behemoth plummeting to the depths of the labyrinth. When Hajime regains consciousness, he realizes he has miraculously survived the fall, but finds himself alone at the bottom of the labyrinth, a treacherous area filled with the deadliest monsters. As he explores, he witnesses terrifying creatures, including a monstrous rabbit that swiftly kills a wolf-like beast. Hajime's presence is soon discovered, and the rabbit monster charges at him. He narrowly dodges, his body slamming painfully into nearby rocks. Suddenly, a massive bear appears, quickly dispatching the rabbit monster and devouring its remains. Terrified, Hajime tries to escape, but his movements reveal his location, and with one swift blow, the bear slices off his arm. Desperate to survive, Hajime retreats into a narrow cave, creating a wall of rocks to seal off the entrance. Inside, he collapses in despair, believing he will die. But as he stares at the cave ceiling, he notices a glowing, holy crystal. He recognizes it as a legendary artifact, capable of healing injuries through its dripping holy water. As the drops land on his body, his wounds begin to close, and the bleeding stops. The healing water revitalizes him, restoring some hope and determination to survive. Realizing he has no choice, Hajime vows to escape the labyrinth, even if he must eat monster meat to sustain himself. He lures a wolf into the cave, kills it using transmutation, and then consumes its meat despite the repulsive taste. The experience is agonizing as his body reacts violently, his hair turning white due to the fusion of monster DNA. This change, however, grants him new strength and the ability to manipulate magic without incantations. Testing his newfound powers, Hajime creates a flame in his hand and roasts the monster meat, finding it more bearable to eat when cooked. This food allows him to recover and gain new abilities, including enhanced physical power and quicker reflexes. Equipped with his new skills, Hajime begins crafting weapons from the rocks around him. He manages to create gunpowder and bullets, fashioning a makeshift firearm that amplifies his lightning magic. Armed and determined, he ventures out of the cave and quickly dispatches the rabbit monster that once attacked him. By consuming its meat, he gains additional abilities like lightning-fast movement and enhanced agility, along with improved tactical skills, which push him to level 12. With his newfound abilities, Hajime seeks revenge on the bear monster that had previously taken his arm. When he encounters it, he attacks with his enhanced speed and agility, dodging its blows and firing at its arm. The bullet rips through the monster's limb, and a final lightning charge shot to the head brings the bear down for good. Hajime's victory fuels his determination as he continues through the labyrinth, steadily hunting and consuming monsters to increase his power. Over time, Hajime reaches level 17, carrying holy water with him as a precaution. Although he's unsure of his exact location within the labyrinth's 100 floors, he's prepared to dig his way out if necessary. Eventually, a gecko-like monster ambushes him, casting rock-based magic to turn Hajime to stone. Using the holy water, Hajime counters the spell's effects, hurling a flash bomb to disorient the creature before delivering a lethal shot. After countless battles and weeks of surviving in the treacherous labyrinth, Hajime had consumed the flesh of dozens, possibly hundreds, of monsters, elevating his strength to an overwhelming level. Meanwhile, Commander Meld and his remaining group managed to return to the palace, where they relayed their harrowing experiences to the king. Meld described how they had discovered a sacred stone with the power to teleport them to unexplored, unreachable floors of the labyrinth. Despite their attempts to face the powerful behemoth, they suffered a heavy loss. The news of Hajime's disappearance, a hero who had been summoned from another world, began to spread rapidly across the kingdom. Meanwhile, Hajime himself had ventured even deeper into the labyrinth, arriving at an unusual chamber. He discovered a massive, ancient door flanked by two intimidating stone statues. Intrigued, he attempted to open the door using his energy manipulation, only to activate the statues. They sprang to life, charging at Hajime. However, with his newly acquired strength and weaponry, Hajime was more than prepared for the challenge. Using a mix of his unique skills and powerful attacks, he quickly defeated the statues, retrieving two glowing magic spheres from their remains. These orbs served as keys to open the door, and as soon as he unlocked it, a mysterious light shone from within, revealing a large cube at the far end of the room. Cautiously, Hajime approached the cube, where he discerned the form of a young girl sealed inside. She begged him for help, pleading for release from her prison. At first, Hajime was wary, suspecting a trap, as he knows that anything sealed away could easily pose a threat. However, the girl confided in him, explaining that she had been betrayed by those she trusted. Relating to her story of betrayal, Hajime decided to take the risk and help her. The girl, who introduced herself as a vampire with powers over magic, healing, and other abilities, explained that her family had sealed her in the cube because they couldn't kill her. Understanding her plight, Hajime placed his hand on the cube, channeling all his strength to break the powerful seal. After an intense struggle, he succeeded, and the girl was freed. When Hajime asked for her name, she admitted she didn't have one and requested that he give her one. Hajime named her Yue, a gesture that deeply moved her. Yue expressed her gratitude by hugging Hajime, but their brief moment of peace was interrupted by a sudden, sharp attack. Hajime barely had time to react before a weapon struck him, and he collapsed from the wound. Quickly dousing the injury with holy water, Hajime noticed a giant crab monster looming in the shadows, determined to keep Yue from escaping. A fierce battle ensued as Hajime fired his gun at the crab, though his attacks seemed ineffective against its durable shell. The crab launched attacks of its own, forcing Hajime to leap and dodge continuously. Seeing Hajime struggling, Yue bit him and drank his blood, a process that restored her depleted magic power. With her strength renewed, she conjured a massive energy sphere, hurling it at the crab. The impact staggered it, though it was still standing. At Hajime's suggestion, Yue cast the spell once more, channeling her magic into a larger, more powerful crystal sphere. The attack finally brought the crab to its knees. As it fell, Hajime seized the opportunity, jumping onto the crab's body and delivering a fatal close-range shot. With the crab defeated, Hajime and Yue carved up the creature to eat its meat. As they rested, Hajime asked Yue if she knew which floor they were on. Unfortunately, Yue had no idea, though she did share an ancient lore. She explained that the labyrinth was created by a powerful traitor from the Age of the Gods, a rogue hand of the deities who had attempted to bring about the world's end. When this plot failed, the traitor fled to the labyrinth, which had since served as a sanctuary for other exiled traitors. Somewhere within the labyrinth was rumored to be a gathering place where these renegades took refuge, and if Hajime and Yue could reach it, they might find a way back to the surface. Hajime examined the weapon that had injured him, finding it made from a rare, sturdy stone. He fashioned it into a new kind of bullet, a 3 inch long blade, 1 inch wide, and 1 inch thick. He used it to pierce the crab's stomach, allowing it to escape. Hajime, seeing this, and used his advanced skills to create a powerful railgun. As he worked, Yui, brimming with curiosity, bombarded him with questions. Taking a deep breath, Hajime recounted the events that led him to this world, explaining how he and his classmates had been summoned by a deity to protect humanity from the demon race. Due to his initially weak powers, he was often ridiculed and undervalued by his peers. Hajime's mistrust had grown after he was betrayed in the labyrinth, where he felt one of his classmates had targeted him with an attack. Forced to survive alone, he'd resorted to consuming monster flesh to gain strength. Touched by Hajime's difficult journey, Yue grew somber, feeling the weight of his isolation. Hajime reassured her that his primary goal was no longer vengeance but survival, with the hope of eventually finding a way back to his own world. He invited Yui to join him on his quest, which lifted her spirits as she had nowhere else to call home. Elsewhere in the kingdom, Hajime's classmates, led by Koki Amenagawa, were undergoing training. Koki's level had increased to 50, and his skills had significantly improved. The group, now more experienced, was instructed to return to the labyrinth to continue their advancement. Back in the labyrinth, Hajime and Yue found themselves pursued by a pack of Tyrannosaurus-like creatures adorned with strange flowers growing on their heads. As Hajime fought, he noticed that killing one didn't diminish the threat, more and more kept appearing. He soon deduced that the flowers were parasites controlling the dinosaurs and possibly linked to an unseen controller. Determined to locate the source, Hajime and Yue evaded the creatures, searching for the mastermind behind them. They eventually arrived in a room filled with drifting green lights. A shard of green light struck Yu, and immediately a flower sprouted on her head, forcing her into a trance. Enraged, Yu began attacking Hajime under the flower's control. A monstrous green plant creature appeared, manipulating Yu's every move. Hajime couldn't bring himself to harm her, fearing any attack might hurt her instead. Desperate, Yui instructed him to aim for the flower, and with precision, Hajime fired a single bullet that struck the flower, destroying it and breaking the creature's control over her, and he shot the creature, killing her. After a moment to rest, Hajime and Yue continued their journey, descending deeper into the labyrinth. Finally, they reached a grand staircase that led them to the ominous 100th floor. There, they encountered a colossal door that opened into an elaborate room with towering purple pillars. At the far end stood another massive door, but as they approached it, a terrifying multi-headed dragon appeared to block their path. The fierce battle that followed pushed them to their limits. The dragon's heads, each with unique powers, presented a formidable challenge. One head, colored white, could heal the others, forcing Hajime and Yue to prioritize it. Yet every attempt to target the white head was thwarted by the yellow head that served as a shield. Exhausted but determined, Hajime unleashed a barrage of attacks, while Yui tried to evade the dragon's illusions. At one point, Yue was nearly captured, but Hajime quickly intervened, helping her recover with a vial of holy water. In a final coordinated strike, Hajime prepared his railgun, knowing it could only fire once and needed perfect timing. With Yu's assistance, they launched a devastating assault, aiming to eliminate the dragon once and for all. After positioning himself strategically, Hajime aimed his railgun and unleashed a torrent of energy at the dragon's multiple heads. His relentless attack left the creature reeling, giving Yu an opportunity to launch her own powerful magic spheres, which struck the remaining heads. One by one, the dragon heads were destroyed, but just when it seemed they had finally triumphed, a monstrous primary dragon head emerged, unleashing a fierce beam of light directly at Yue. Without hesitation, Hajime jumped in to protect her, absorbing the brunt of the attack with his rifle. The blast was devastating, melting his rifle instantly and leaving Hajime gravely injured as he collapsed. The dragon continued its assault, sending waves of destruction their way. Yu quickly created a protective shield around Hajime, and together they took shelter behind a cluster of rock. Desperate, Yu tried to heal Hajime with holy water, but his wounds were too severe. Determined to protect him, Yu grabbed Hajime's rifle and charged at the dragon alone. However, the dragon proved far too powerful for her solo efforts, and Yui soon found herself overwhelmed, unable to continue. Just as despair was setting in, a mysterious power surged through Hajime. He leapt up, newly invigorated, and intervened to save Yue. His body now moved with enhanced speed and precision, allowing him to evade the dragon's brutal strikes with ease. With renewed energy, Hajime formulated a bold plan. He scaled the walls of the chamber, planting grenades along the ceiling above the dragon. Once in a safe position, he detonated the explosives, causing debris to rain down and bury the dragon under the rubble. Taking advantage of the creature's momentary disorientation, Yue unleashed her ultimate magical attack, delivering a final blow that defeated the dragon at last. Exhausted from the grueling fight, Hajime then collapsed, and you noticed that the door before them had miraculously opened. At the palace, Aiko Hatayama, the teacher of the Otherworld students, confronted the kingdom's pope. Aiko was outraged that her students were once again being sent to train in the dangerous labyrinth, especially after one had already been killed. Langbard defended the decision, explaining that they had no choice but to prepare everyone for the threats ahead. He assured Aiko that participation would remain voluntary. Disheartened but resigned, Aiko left. Meanwhile, Kaori and her fellow classmates were back in the labyrinth, continuing their training with little time to grieve for those they had lost. As Hajime gradually regained consciousness, he found himself in a strange cage within a bright, sterile room. Confused, he learned from Yue that after they defeated the dragon, the massive door ahead of them had opened and she had managed to drag him inside. Yue had attempted to heal him with holy water, but his condition had stubbornly remained the same. Exploring their surroundings, they realized the room offered a rare view of sunlight and a ceiling that shifted like the sky itself. At night, Yue pointed out the countless shooting stars crossing the ceiling, a dazzling sight that left them both mesmerized. As they wandered further, they stumbled upon a vast library, natural hot springs, and various other mysterious chambers. Climbing to the top floor of the building, they discovered a grand throne occupied by a skull, which seemed to wait ominously. In the center of the room, a glowing magic circle pulsed with energy. Sensing that this room held the key to escaping the labyrinth, Hajime stepped into the circle, which activated immediately. Suddenly, the skull transformed into a hologram of Oscar Orcus, the creator of the labyrinth. Oscar's recording congratulated Hajime for completing the labyrinth's final test. Eager for answers, Hajime began asking questions, and Oscar, predicting his curiosity, shared the background behind his actions. As a mere recording, Oscar could only provide limited details, but he revealed his motivations and the origins of the labyrinth. Meanwhile, back in the labyrinth, Kaori's group reached the 65th floor, a depth never before explored by humans. To their horror, Behemoth, a formidable beast thought to be defeated, reappeared. Commander Meld reminded everyone of the labyrinth's nature monsters here had the ability to resurrect, often unpredictably. Determined to succeed, Koki and his group decided to face the behemoth head-on. Koki initiated the attack with a radiant strike from his sword, but missed his target. Shizuku Yaiba joined the assault, coordinating with Koki to pressure the behemoth from both sides. As Commander Meld and Amadeus positioned themselves strategically, the support team quickly set up a high-level magic circle. Commander Meld Koki's clear and timely commands as Behemoth summoned a horde of skeletons to break their formation. Despite the added threat, Koki and his team pressed forward without hesitation, unleashing coordinated attacks from all angles. In a climactic moment, Commander Meld struck Behemoth's horn, fracturing it, while Shizuku's sword delivered the final blow that shattered it completely. In a risky move, Koki dove in with Kaori to attempt a direct attack, but Behemoth's hide proved impenetrable. Koki quickly retreated, casting healing spells to replenish his teammates' energy. His comrades fought valiantly, engaging in relentless skirmishes with the skeletons, while Behemoth rampaged through the battle. Just as Behemoth broke through their magic shield, Kaori reinforced the barrier, repelling the monster with a surge of power. Gathering their strength, they launched an all-out assault, culminating in Koki's ultimate attack. With a final, deafening roar, the behemoth fell, its body dissolving into the air. Back in the mysterious chamber, Oscar explained to Hajime that he would inherit his powers and was free to use them however he saw fit. Oscar expressed hope that his abilities would not be used for destruction, acknowledging that his own physical form would soon disappear. As the magic circle's glow faded, Hajime felt a surge of sharp pain, but emerged with newfound insight. He had discovered that Oscar and his allies were not mere pawns or traitors, but champions of freedom. Still, Hajime felt no loyalty to the world he'd been thrust into. His sole focus was returning home. Yuri reassured Hajime, supporting his desire to leave the labyrinth and pursue his own path. Hajime shared that he had learned an ancient magic called creator magic, a skill allowing him to shape raw materials into powerful artifacts. He suggested teaching Yu this skill, though transmutation didn't come as naturally to her. Together, they experimented with this newfound magic, though Yu struggled to master it. Before leaving, they gathered Oscar's remains and combed through his library. Yu discovered an intriguing book outlining that similar labyrinths held other forms of ancient magic. Eager to enhance their powers, they planned to explore these other labyrinths, but decided to first take full advantage of the resources at hand. Hajime crafted an array of weapons, including a storage ring capable of storing various things. He even created an artificial arm to replace his lost limb and a vehicle to get around the world. After spending 2 months honing their abilities and amassing equipment, they were ready to continue their journey. As they stood within the labyrinth's flaming magic circle, Hajime realized that the power they'd gained might make them targets. Their equipment, strength, and knowledge of advanced magic could easily draw the ire or envy of others. Despite this risk, they were resolved to confront anyone who dared oppose them and forge a path to freedom. Together, they activated the circle, ready to transcend the labyrinth. Upon emerging from the magic circle onto a rocky cliff, they encountered a rabbit girl named Shia, who frantically ran toward them, pursued by a two-headed T-Rex. With a swift motion, Hajime dispatched the monster, astonishing Shia with his strength. Shia pleaded with Hajime to help save her rabbit tribe, which was under attack. Curiously, Hajime agreed, but asked her to tell him her full story before this. The rabbit tribe had faced a grim fate, being cast out from their village and forced to wander, only to find themselves constantly hunted by vicious monsters. Shia, who possessed a unique ability to glimpse into the future, had foreseen an opportunity to save her tribe by waiting for Hajime and Yue to pass by, hoping they might agree to help. Hajime, however, showed little interest in her plight, seeing no benefit in assisting them. Shia, realizing Hajime was on a quest to find a massive tree, offered her knowledge as a guide, promising to lead him to it if he helped her tribe. With a begrudging agreement, Hajime and Yu decided to follow her. With his custom-made motorbike, Hajime sped through the terrain with Yue and Shia in tow, arriving swiftly at the rabbit tribe's location. Wielding his advanced weaponry, Hajime took down the monsters terrorizing the rabbit tribe, overwhelming them with his skill and technology. Relieved, the rabbit tribe was finally able to rest without fear. The following day, the tribe approached Hajime, asking him to train them in the art of combat. Although initially resistant, Hajime agreed reluctantly, his approach strict and unforgiving. Despite their lack of experience and timid nature, the rabbit tribe endured Hajime's demanding training regimen. Shia, meanwhile, took on Yu as a sparring partner, showing no sign of fatigue. In time, Shia prepared to fulfill her promise, guiding Hajime and Yue to the legendary giant tree. Upon arrival, they were met with a towering but leafless tree, standing alone with a stone inscription at its base. Certain that this spot marked the entryway to another labyrinth, Hajime used Oscar Orcus's ring to attempt activating the passage, but to no effect. Upon further inspection, they learned that the reward of this labyrinth would be the secret of regeneration. However, they discovered that in order to earn the skill, they would need to conquer every labyrinth first. Disappointed, Hajime and Yue prepared to leave. Though the rabbit tribe expressed a desire to accompany him, Hajime instructed them to remain behind and continue training until he summoned them. The tribe, now adept at combat, readily agreed. Yet Shia was determined to join Hajime's journey, and her persistence paid off when Hajime and Yue accepted her as a traveling companion. With their party strengthened, Hajime, Yue, and Shia set out to find the labyrinth created by Miley D. Risen. They soon arrived at a barren canyon, and Shia's keen eye spotted an inconspicuous gap between the cliffs. This passage revealed itself to be the entrance to Milady Risen's labyrinth. As they descended into the dim hallway, everything seemed eerily calm until a giant boulder suddenly began rolling toward them from the other end of the corridor. Unable to use magic in this area, Hajime whipped out his gun, reducing the boulder to rubble. Shia took up a hammer, smashing the remaining fragments, clearing their path forward. Their trek continued, though they soon encountered new traps, including chainsaws that emerged from the walls to block their way. Shia fended these off with her magic hammer, but as they advanced, they found themselves retracing their steps, stuck in a frustrating loop that brought them back to their starting point. It wasn't until they carefully examined the layout that they found an alternate route and managed to break free of the labyrinth's cyclical path. After much effort, they reached a vast chamber lined with rows of statues, each one towering and meticulously detailed. Suddenly, the statues began to move, surrounding them. Hajime and Shia sprang into action, fighting their way forward toward an altar. When they reached it, the altar lifted them into the air, carrying them to an upper level where they faced a colossal statue that appeared to be sentient. It introduced itself as Mayadi Ryzen, the labyrinth's creator, and boasted that the labyrinth's traps had been specifically designed to deter intruders. Hajime, recognizing the name from Oscar's notes, questioned how Mayadi could still be alive, to which Mayadi cryptically responded that she'd been able to extend his presence through magic. Mayadi, curious about Hajime's intentions, asked him why he sought ancient magic. Hajime explained his desire for dimensional transfer magic to return to his world, but Mayadi refused to confirm whether such magic existed in this labyrinth. Frustrated with her evasiveness, Hajime launched a barrage of attacks, while Shia leaped into the fray with her sledgehammer. Mayadi blocked Shia's strike, but Hajime took advantage of the distraction to unleash an intense blast directly at Mayadi's face, forcing the giant statue to stumble. However, Mayadi quickly regained composure and retaliated, hurling massive boulders at them. They narrowly dodged the deadly projectiles and regrouped, but Mayadi's taunting gaze remained fixed upon them. Hajime then devised a new strategy, signaling Yue to prepare an attack from behind. As he distracted Mayadi with precise gunfire, Yue unleashed a powerful ice spell. Despite his confidence, Mayadi was unable to block every attack, and with a combined assault from Hajime and Yue, her defenses began to falter. With Mayadi weakened, Shia charged in and with a mighty swing of her hammer, shattered Mayadi's core, reducing the statue to a heap of rubble. Though they had triumphed, Mayadi's voice lingered, explaining that, to achieve his goal, Hajime would need to gather all ancient magics from the various labyrinths and ultimately face the gods themselves. Hajime, indifferent to the gods' interference, expressed no interest in challenging them unless they directly hindered his quest. Seemingly amused, Mayadi accepted Hajime's blunt response before her massive form crumbled into dust. Hajime, Yue, and Shia then advanced to the next room. Inside, they encountered what appeared to be a young child in a hood who gleefully revealed himself as another manifestation of Mayadi. She playfully asked how he had done in pretending to be dead earlier, to which Yu suggested Shia handle him with no mercy. Shia promptly obliged, delivering a swift hammer blow. With the antics aside, Hajime, Yue, and Shia positioned themselves on the magic circle in the room, activating it to claim the labyrinth's prize. To their surprise, the reward was gravity magic, a skill particularly compatible with Yue, though Mayadi warned it would require practice and mastery. Unsatisfied, Hajime pressed for additional rewards, to which Mayadi grudgingly obliged by tossing rare materials and artifacts their way before a jet of water expelled them from the labyrinth, depositing them by a lake outside, and with this, the second labyrinth had been conquered. Not long after, Hajime, Yue, and Shia encountered Ilwer Chang, the leader of a guild branch in the area. Rumors had reached him about Hajime's daring entrance into the Forbidden Ryzen Valley, but Hajime feigned ignorance. In an attempt to secure Hajime's help, Ilwer Chang proposed a mission, hinting that aiding the guild would allow Hajime greater freedom to explore without interference from local authorities. Ilwer Chang explained that a group of adventurers, including Wokudita, the third son of a noble family, had gone missing in the northern mountains. With the gravity of the situation apparent, Ilwer Chang requested Hajime's assistance, explaining that despite the strength of the group, they had encountered a mysterious threat and lost contact. As a show of goodwill, Ilwer Chang assured Hajime that the guild would provide protection against any rival guilds if he accepted the mission. Hajime, ever calculating, agreed, but on his own terms. He demanded that Ilwer Chang supply them with status plates to raise their levels, and, secondly, that the guild pledge to assist him whenever he called for aid, and Ilwer Chang agreed to these conditions. Hajime, Yue, and Shia set off on their motorbike, heading toward the mountains. Along the way, they planned a detour to a lush region called Ur, where they could enjoy an abundance of food. Meanwhile, Aiko and her students were already in Ur, working on agricultural projects. Skilled in farming, Aiko taught her students well, and after a long day of work, they were rewarded with a feast. During their meal, a man approached, explaining that the town's spices were running low because the merchants had been blocked from passing through the mountains due to monstrous attacks. The man mentioned that the Adventurers Guild had previously sent a team to handle the situation, and another guild group was currently en route to provide additional support. Aiko and her students expressed hope that those sent would be capable warriors. Soon enough, the guild's reinforcements arrived, and to Aiko's astonishment, she recognized Hajime among them, someone she had thought lost forever. Overcome with shock, she approached him, only to find him in the company of two unfamiliar girls, Yu and Shia. Initially, Hajime pretended not to recognize Aiko, but after her persistent scolding, he acknowledged his identity as her former student. His classmates, observing from afar, barely recognized him with his white hair, eye patch, and a mechanical arm that made him seem like a different person altogether. Aiko pressed Hajime to explain what had happened to him. He merely responded that his current state was the result of his relentless efforts. She asked why he hadn't come back to them, but Hajime explained that he had no interest in returning to the kingdom or rejoining the others. He had his own path to follow and goals he preferred to keep private. Their conversation was interrupted by David Zahler, another adventurer who tried to confront Hajime, only for Hajime to swiftly fire blank bullets, sending David sprawling and warning him not to meddle. He made it clear that anyone interfering with his plans would face consequences. Later that night, Hajime visited Aiko in her room, where they shared tea and had a quiet conversation. Without the interruptions, he began sharing the truth about the world they inhabited. Hajime explained the ancient history, a time when a devastating war had raged on for centuries. A group emerged during this time, determined to end the gods' manipulation. Led by visionary leaders, this group eventually realized that the gods themselves instigated conflicts among humanity as if playing a twisted game. Heroes, known as the Liberators, rose against this divine tyranny. Though their intentions were noble, they were eventually vilified as rebels and forced into hiding. The Liberators, understanding that they could not openly defy the gods without causing widespread casualties, chose instead to create labyrinths across the world. These maze-like sanctuaries contained trials designed to bestow power upon any who could conquer them, hoping one day someone strong enough would emerge to challenge the gods' influence. Aiko asked if Hajime's mission is to stand against the gods, but Hajime shrugged it off, explaining that he isn't particularly concerned about the gods or the fate of this world. His only goal was to find a way back home. As Hajime prepared to depart the next morning, Aiko and her students intercepted him, eager to assist. Reluctant, Hajime expressed doubt about their capabilities, worried they would be more of a hindrance than help. However, Aiko insisted they could contribute by providing horses for the journey. In response, Hajime revealed his motorbike, which left everyone speechless. When Aiko persisted, Hajime relented, transforming his motorbike into a larger vehicle capable of carrying them all. With everyone aboard, they set off toward the mountain. Arriving at their destination, they searched until they found a hidden cave behind a waterfall, where a terrified guild member explained that a black dragon had killed all his comrades. Just as they were about to retreat, the dragon emerged, unleashing a fiery onslaught. Hajime swiftly raised his shield, deflecting the flames, while Yue launched a colossal magic sphere at the beast. Shia joined the fray, leaping up to smash the dragon with her hammer. The dragon fell momentarily, but soon recovered, rampaging in fury. Hajime's gunfire seemed ineffective against the dragon's thick scales, and the creature targeted Will, one of their companions. Yo quickly erected an ice barrier, shielding Will from harm. Irritated by the dragon's single-minded focus on Will, Hajime drew out a magic cannon and unleashed a potent blast that collided with the dragon's fiery breath, causing a tremendous explosion. The dragon, disoriented, collapsed to the ground, where Hajime took the opportunity to deliver a powerful punch to its belly. He followed up with a grenade, resulting in another explosion, but even this wasn't enough to subdue the resilient creature. The dragon roared, launching another fiery attack, but Hajime deftly dodged while returning fire with his gun. This time, the dragon was noticeably weakened, giving Hajime a chance to set up a specialized weapon aimed at penetrating the beast's scales. As he prepared, the dragon resisted fiercely. Calling Shia to assist, Hajime coordinated with her as she pummeled the dragon with her hammer, disorienting it further. Examining the dragon, Hajime finally found an unarmored spot and prepared to attack. But before he could strike, the dragon, now speaking, pleaded for mercy, revealing that she was under someone else's control. She explained that a figure in a black hood had manipulated her into targeting Will and his group. Originally, she had left her homeland to investigate the appearance of people from another world, but had been intercepted and controlled by this dark figure. Determined to make amends, the dragon offered her assistance in stopping this mysterious enemy. She then transformed into her human form, introducing herself as Tio Clarence, a proud dragon human of the Clarence family. Tio revealed that the hooded figure had mobilized an army of 60,000 monsters, all set to invade the city of Yu confirmed this with her magic sight, but while Aiko and her students worried for the city's safety, Hajime remained unmoved. His mission, he reminded them, was to rescue Will, not to defend the kingdom's citizens. However, after Aiko earnestly pleaded with him, Hajime finally agreed to help them defend knowing they had only one day to prepare. In that short time, Hajime erected an imposing wall around the city, forming a formidable fortress. As he prepared, Tio approached him, expressing a desire to join Hajime's party. Though he refused to add her to his team, Tio still insisted on coming along with him. As dawn broke, the battle began in earnest. Hajime unleashed a relentless barrage from his machine gun, mowing down waves of monstrous foes. Nearby, Tio joined the fray, her dragon magic obliterating entire groups of enemies. Not to be outdone, Yui launched a series of devastating long-range spells, each strike as precise as it was powerful. While Yu held her position from a distance, Hajime and Shia charged into close combat, tearing through the enemy ranks. Their combined strength and weaponry left the monsters no chance, and soon the hillside was littered with defeated creatures. Watching from a distant cliff, a figure cloaked in black observed the crushing defeat of his monster army in disbelief. Before he could react, Hajime appeared behind him, delivering a punishing blow. By morning, every last monster had fallen. Hajime dragged the black-cloaked figure to the town and threw him at Aiko's feet, revealing the traitor to be none other than Shimizu Yukitoshi, one of her missing students. Shimizu, desperate for power, had allied himself with dark forces, and his mission had been to assassinate Aiko, who possessed the coveted power of agriculture. Aiko, heartbroken, attempted to reason with him, but Shimizu remained defiant, revealing his intent to finish what he had started. In a final act of betrayal, he jabbed a poisoned needle into Aiko's neck. Seconds later, a gunshot rang out, striking Shimizu. Although Aiko was shocked and wounded, she had not yet succumbed to the poison. Hajime immediately administered holy water, neutralizing the toxin and saving her life. As she regained her strength, Aiko pleaded with Hajime to give the same remedy to Shimizu. Hajime, however, flatly refused. Shimizu, panicked and desperate, begged for mercy, swearing that he would change if given the chance. Hajime remained unmoved, seeing Shimizu's pleas as hollow, and ended his life with a single shot. Afterward, as Hajime, Tio, and Will prepared to leave her, Tio explained the situation to Aiko. She clarified that Shimizu's actions had created a scenario where Aiko would have borne the guilt of his death had he been left to suffer. In a way, Hajime's swift action freed Aiko from that burden. With Will safely returned, Hajime and his group took a moment to relax in the city. The next day, Hajime and Shia explored the local fish market, where they encountered a peculiar fish with a human-like face, who introduced himself as Leifman. Amused by the encounter, Hajime asked Lemon how he could talk. Slightly annoyed, Leifman explained that he was simply a talking fish and requested to be set free. With a smirk, Hajime agreed and released him into a nearby river. After Leifman's release, they noticed an alarming sight. Members of a slave trading syndicate were capturing half-human, half-fish beings nearby. Hajime and Shia continued walking around the town, but Hajime sensed something unusual underground. Following his instincts, they discovered a young fish girl trapped beneath the streets. After bringing her to safety, the girl, who introduced herself as Miyu, grew attached to Hajime and Shia, clinging to them for comfort. Meanwhile, the syndicate of slave traders soon discovered Miyu's escape, launching a frenzied search throughout the city. Hajime and Shia took Miyu to the authorities for protection, but as they left the building, an explosion shook the area. Rushing back, they found the guards incapacitated and a taunting message scrawled on the wall. If Hajime didn't surrender Shia, he would never see Miyu again. Infuriated, Hajime prepared for revenge. Yu and Tio, alerted to the situation, joined Hajime in tracking down the syndicate's headquarters. They arrived to find a stronghold crawling with slavers, and a brutal massacre ensued. No one could stand against Hajime and his companions, not after they had proven themselves by defeating a horde of 60,000 monsters. After cutting through the guards, Hajime reached the main auction hall, where Miyu was set to be sold. He eliminated the syndicate's boss and freed Miyu, causing widespread panic among the slavers. Using gravity magic, Hajime lifted Miyu into the air, giving her a bird's-eye view as he ignited a cascade of explosions throughout the building. As they floated above the destruction, Miyu watched in awe as Hajime vowed to protect her from harm. Reuniting with Yue, Tio, and Shia, Hajime officially welcomed Miyu into their group. With a new companion in tow, the group set out for the next city, where Hajime hoped to find clues about his original world. Upon their arrival, they met Loba Wavis, the head of the local adventurers guild, and delivered a letter from Ilwer Chang, the guild leader he met previously. Loa was intrigued by Hajimi's reputation, remarking on his recent feats vanquishing an army of monsters and dismantling a crime ring in a single day. Their conversation was interrupted by a familiar face, Endu Kosuke, one of Hajimi's classmates, who entered the guild hall in a panic. Recognizing Hajime, Endu was stunned and immediately pleaded for his help, explaining that their classmates were in grave danger. Kosuke recounted how his party had descended deep into a labyrinth, where they encountered no monsters at first. However, at the lowest levels, they were ambushed by a demon woman who attempted to recruit them to the dark side. When they refused, she unleashed powerful monsters to corner them, slaughtering their party mercilessly. Desperate, Endu had escaped alone to seek aid, only to realize the demon had pursued him. Commander Meld urged Endu to reach the guild and bring reinforcements. Now, with his friends' lives hanging by a thread, Endu begged Hajime to intervene. Initially indifferent, due to the bitterness of past betrayals, Hajime was reluctant to help. But when Endu humbled himself, bowing deeply and imploring Hajime, and with encouragement from his friends, Hajime finally relented. Back in the labyrinth, Koki and his remaining allies had been driven to the brink, fleeing from the demon's relentless assault. Exhausted and desperate, they even considered surrendering to survive. But just as they neared complete despair, a bloodied Commander Meld reappeared, urging them to resist. Tragically, the demon ended his life, sparking Koki's rage. In a final, reckless charge, Koki attacked with all his might but hesitated at the critical moment. His indecision cost him, and he was thrown back by the demon's retaliatory magic. With monsters closing in, the party seemed doomed. At that critical moment, a blinding attack cut through the demon's summoned creatures, scattering them with a single powerful strike. As the smoke cleared, Hajime stepped into view, his appearance shocking his former friends. Ignoring their disbelief, he instructed Yui, Shia, and Tio to attend to the wounded while he focused on the demon. Despite the demon's confidence, Hajime quickly identified her hidden minions and wiped them out with ruthless efficiency. His friends, awestruck, watched as he dispatched the demon's army with his firearm, obliterating the weak creatures effortlessly. Suddenly, a monstrous, turtle-like creature emerged, radiating lethal energy. Calmly, Hajime activated a shield from his enchanted ring, deflecting the creature's deadly beam. Reflecting the attack back, he stunned the demon, causing her to lose focus. The turtle monster, sensing danger, retreated into its shell, but Hajime relentlessly bombarded it until its armor cracked. Seizing the moment, he tossed a grenade into the shell's opening. The explosion echoed through the labyrinth, and the turtle fell silent, its defeat marking the end of the demon's remaining defenses. The classmates who had once considered Hajime weak and unremarkable could hardly believe their eyes. Endu, ever practical, confirmed Hajime's identity, having checked his status plate. Not long after, another wave of monsters surged forward, aiming to overwhelm the remaining heroes. Yu quickly summoned a powerful magic orb, which pulled in and obliterated the advancing creatures. Meanwhile, Shia stood guard over the injured Commander Meld, wielding her magic hammer with fierce precision as she crushed any monsters daring to approach. Suddenly, one particularly large creature charged directly at Shizuku. Without hesitation, Hajime handed her his sword, and Shizuku caught it, swiftly decapitating the monster with a clean strike. The demon, now watching her forces fall to pieces, seemed at a loss. Desperate, she unleashed a deadly cloud of poisonous smoke, targeting Hajime. Confident she had the upper hand, she turned and tried to flee, but Hajime barely flinched, calmly throwing an iron rod that pierced through her escape route and blocked her path. Hajime then raised his gun, pinning her down with his gaze as he demanded answers. He questioned how she, a demon, had come to control so many ancient monsters and what she was doing deep within the labyrinth. Cornered, the demon revealed that she had conquered part of the labyrinth herself, gaining access to the power to command ancient monsters. Her purpose in wandering the labyrinth, she admitted, was to grow stronger by absorbing even more magic and power. Satisfied with her answers, Hajime ended her life without hesitation. Koki, witnessing the swift execution, protested, questioning why Hajime hadn't shown mercy. But Hajime paid no attention to Koki's objections, focused solely on getting everyone out of the labyrinth safely. Upon reaching the surface, Kaori ran to meet Hajime, expressing her desire to join him on his journey. Despite some initial resistance and a bit of back and forth, Hajime finally agreed, allowing her to come along. Later, they left the city after saying farewell to the others, and Kaori enjoyed the company of her new traveling companions. We then see that in the Grand Haley Kingdom, a fervent discussion is underway regarding the rising threat of the Demon King. Princess Liliana Hailey, the king's determined daughter, joined the others in strategizing their next move. To have any hope of overcoming the Demon King's forces, they urgently needed the support of seasoned heroes. Just then, thrilling news arrived. One of the heroes, accompanied by the long-awaited group, had returned to the kingdom. Overjoyed, Princess Liliana rushed to greet Shizuku Yaigashi and the other heroes. Embracing Shizuku warmly, she led them to a splendid festive banquet, honoring their return and offering them a royal welcome. Amid the celebration, Princess Liliana confided her worries to Shizuku, sharing how she'd anxiously awaited the hero's safe return from the treacherous Great Orcus Labyrinth. She couldn't help but ask about Kaori, one of her dearest companions. Shizuku explained that Kaori had chosen to stay with Hajime, the one who had saved her life. She added that they had tried to bring Hajime back with them, but he'd refused, focused solely on his own mission to return to his world. Princess Liliana, intrigued and deeply curious, expressed her strong desire to meet Hajime. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the vast, scorching Gruin desert, where Hajime's vehicle sped along the dusty road, carrying him, his harem of companions, and his adopted child, Miyu. Inside, the atmosphere was lively and competitive. Shia and Tio were playfully bickering, while Kaori and Yue exchanged light-hearted jabs, each one vying to prove that they knew Hajime better than the other. Yue, confident and unbothered, decided to employ her ultimate tactic, rendering Kaori temporarily speechless. Miyu couldn't hold back her irritation and sternly chastised the others, reminding them to act more maturely in her presence. Their rivalry momentarily paused, but the banter soon resumed until a sudden jolt caught everyone's attention. A monstrous creature, the notorious sandworm, emerged from the desert sands, swiftly pursuing their car. Even as Hajime prepared to handle the creature, the girls continued their spirited discussion, with Yue bringing up personal moments with Hajime, leaving Kaori and Tio flustered but eager to retort. Exasperated, Hajime ordered them to cut the chatter, especially during a battle. With a swift move, he unleashed his vehicle's powerful weaponry, blasting the sandworm until it lay motionless in the sand. As they resumed their journey, they noticed a figure sprawled on the ground ahead. Curious, and slightly concerned, they stopped to investigate and found a man named Bize Fjord Zengen. Kaori immediately checked his condition, discovering that his mana was dangerously out of balance. Gently assisting him, Kaori's presence prompted Bize to assume he was in the afterlife, mistaking her for an angelic being. Hajime quickly stomped on Bize's shoulder, snapping him back to reality. Once Bize had collected himself, he introduced himself as the son of Duke Lansoe Fjord Zengen of Ankiji and explained his city's plight. Their water source had become mysteriously contaminated, causing widespread illness among residents and wreaking havoc on mana control. Bize mentioned that a cure could be found using a rare mineral called Silent Stone, which only grew in the treacherous depths of the Gruin volcano. Hoping for their assistance, Bize humbly requested Hajime's help in securing the stone, and the group, with little hesitation, agreed to aid him. In another part of the kingdom, the sinister demons Mikhail and Frade Bagua discussed their recent failures, realizing that Hajime and his powerful team had disrupted their carefully crafted plans. Freed, angered, and resolute, resolved to journey to the formidable Grand Gruin volcano to acquire even more potent magic. This, he believed, was the only way to overcome Hajime's seemingly unbeatable strength. Meanwhile, Hajime and his crew arrived in the bustling city of Ankiji. After a brief rest, they immediately divided their tasks. Shia and Kaori went about healing the sick, working tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of the townspeople. Yu was entrusted with purifying the lake, ensuring that the city would have safe drinking water in the meantime. To investigate the cause of the contamination, Hajime, guided by Bize and the Duke, approached the polluted oasis, using his magic eye to search beneath its murky surface. Seeing something unusual, Hajime wasted no time, tossing several grenades into the water, an approach that drew a concerned scowl from the Duke. Moments later, a monstrous creature burst forth from the depths of the oasis, revealing itself as the source of the poisoned water. Hajime and his companions engaged the creature in a fierce battle, encasing it within a powerful membrane to contain it before swiftly executing it. Although the water didn't clear immediately, Tio reassured the Duke that the oasis would soon return to its original purity. Grateful beyond words, The Duke expressed his heartfelt thanks to Hajime and the group, praising their efforts to save the city and its people. The city celebrated as the news spread that the oasis was clean again, and citizens gathered to thank Hajime and his allies. The Duke announced the restoration of the water supply, urging patience as the city slowly recovered. Encouraged by their success, Hajime offered additional help to secure a silent stone for future safety, earning even more admiration from Ankaji's people. With their sights set on the Grand Gruin volcano, Hajime and the others prepared to set off. Kaori and Miu stayed behind, focused on treating the sick. As they said their goodbyes, Kaori cast a rather pointed look at Hajime, scolding him for his intimate time with Yua. Slightly flustered, Hajime quickly directed the others to move out, keen to avoid any more of Kaori's probing questions. The journey to the volcano led them through a desert landscape, teeming with sandstorms and lurking monsters. When they finally reached their destination, they were forced to go on foot to navigate the harsh, blazing conditions inside the volcanic region. The heat was oppressive, but Tio, as a dragon girl, remained largely unaffected. As they ventured deeper into the mountain's fiery labyrinth, a sudden assault forced them to take defensive action. A massive fire monster emerged, and Shia boldly took the lead, wielding her sledgehammer to crush their enemy to ashes. With the initial threat eliminated, they pressed on, delving further into the volcanic maze. Along the way, they discovered a few silent stones embedded in the volcanic walls, though the quantity was disappointingly low. Determined to find a larger deposit, Hajime suggested moving toward more unexplored sections of the labyrinth. Sure enough, their perseverance was rewarded when they arrived at a hidden area dense with silent stones. Ecstatic, they knew they had the resources to help Ankaji's people, but there was one final challenge. They needed to conquer the labyrinth to claim the stones. Exhausted from the heat, they decided to rest. Hajime asked Yu to bring out ice crystals, and Tio created a cool breeze with her wind magic, providing much-needed relief. During the break, Yui explained that each labyrinth had a unique theme or concept. In the Great Orcus Labyrinth, for instance, they had to defeat powerful monsters. Here, in the Gruin Volcano Labyrinth, she sensed there would be specific requirements for victory. After resting, the group continued onward by boat, floating down a river of molten magma. Eventually, they encountered a searing waterfall, but with Yui's quick thinking and magical expertise, they safely navigated the treacherous currents. At last, they reached an eerie volcanic island. But before they could relax, an ambush struck their boat was destroyed by an unseen force, forcing them to leap onto surrounding rocks. As they surveyed the scene, a group of fiery serpents slithered into view, their scales glowing red-hot in the dim volcanic light. The fire snake monsters launched a relentless attack, forcing Hajime and his companions to fight back fiercely. Each time they struck down one creature, more seemed to emerge, their fiery bodies slithering up from the depths of the magma. Tio observed that there appeared to be as many fire snakes as there were crystals embedded in the walls, which is a daunting number. It became clear they would need to eliminate at least 100 of these creatures to satisfy the labyrinth's challenge. Resolute, Hajime and his team set to work, taking down the monsters with everything they had. In the heat of the battle, a sudden attack struck Hajime, sending him sprawling. Yu screamed, her voice echoing through the lava-filled cavern. Swiftly, she cast a wind spell to prevent his body from falling into the magma river, and then brought him to a safer spot, where she administered a recovery potion. Meanwhile, Shia, ready to rush to Hajime's aid, was held back by Tio, who insisted the timing wasn't right for her to approach him. Another blast hit nearby, prompting Tio to warn Yua that more attacks were imminent, targeting the area where Hajime lay recovering. In response, Yu created a magical barrier to shield him from the oncoming barrage. As they fought to keep their positions, a figure emerged from the shadows, and it was Freed Bagwell. Smirking, Freed congratulated himself on successfully trapping Hajime and his friends, claiming this was the fate they deserved. He admitted that Hajime's survival had taken him by surprise, given the power of his ambush. Hajime, unfazed, remarked that Freed's first move should have been a proper introduction. Freed scoffed, insisting that formalities were unnecessary when addressing those who were as good as dead. Angered by Freed's arrogance, Hajime challenged his assumptions. Freed, however, was unfazed, declaring that he was a messenger of God himself and had been entrusted with the mission to bring heretics like Hajime and his friends to their rightful end. He asserted that his divine power set him above all others, granting him the authority to destroy anyone in his path, particularly someone as defiant as Hajime. Hajime refused to back down, pointing out that Fried's arrogance was unwarranted. With little patience for further conversation, Hajime and his team prepared to fight. Fried summoned an army of creatures to his side, using powerful ancient magic to strengthen his forces. Despite their best efforts, Hajime and his friends struggled to break through Fried's defenses, which were bolstered by rapid-fire spells and nearly impenetrable barriers. Fried darted behind Hajime in a flash of movement, launching a precise strike. Meanwhile, Hajime's companions shielded themselves from the barrage of attacks that came their way. During the intense fight, a memory surfaced for Tio. She recalled a time when her dragon clan was under attack. In his final moments, Tio's father had imparted words of wisdom as members of the dragon race. They must strive to survive with honor. Without virtue, they were merely beasts, but with a sword of reason, they could rise as noble dragon warriors. Remembering this, Tio found renewed strength and determination to face Fried. Tio transformed into her dragon form, hurling Fried's body backward with a powerful blow. The two dragons engaged in fierce combat, each one trying to overpower the other. Though Hajime was still recovering from his injuries, he jumped in to support Tio. Just as he nearly lost his footing over the magma, Tio caught him, saving him from a fiery fall. Fried, realizing the strength of his opponents, admitted that Hajime and his allies were no ordinary enemies. Not only did Hajime possess formidable power, but his friends displayed unique abilities as well. Fried observed that Tio could transform into a dragon. Yui wielded magic without any chance, and the rabbit girl, Shia, had incredible physical strength, along with her ability to foresee future events. Despite using ancient magic, Fried struggled to keep Hajime at bay. He grudgingly admitted that his initial ambush had saved him from a much worse fate, as Hajime and his group might have overpowered him otherwise. Determined not to fail, Fried prepared to unleash his most potent spell. At that moment, a violent tremor shook the volcano, and the magma surged, spilling over the edges of the cavern. Fried watched in horror, realizing that the Great Gruen volcano was on the verge of erupting. He theorized that something might be controlling the volcano itself. Furious, Hajime commanded Tio to take the others and evacuate the labyrinth immediately. Tio protested, asking if she is truly expected to leave Hajime behind, but Hajime countered firmly, explaining that he couldn't complete his mission alone. He needed her assistance to escape the labyrinth and deliver the Silent Stones to Ankaji City. His words motivated Tio, who sprang into action, leading the others out of the labyrinth at top speed. She pressed forward through waves of attacking monsters, her strength increasing with each strike she absorbed. Her unique ability to convert enemies' attacks into her own power allowed her to break through the labyrinth's defenses. Emerging from the depths of the volcano, she was met with Fried's astonished gaze, who realized that Tio, too, was a formidable opponent. Meanwhile, Fried intended to chase after Tio, but Hajime intercepted him, surrounding Fried with a barrage of mass weapons that rained down upon him. Struggling to hold his ground, Fried found himself caught in the middle of Hajime's unrelenting assault. Back in the Heilige Kingdom, Princess Liliana observed Shizuku, who was practicing her swordsmanship alone. As Shizuku trained, she noticed a small cat nearby and, delighted, invited it to play. But realizing Princess Liliana was watching her, she blushed in embarrassment. They then shared a light-hearted conversation about the kingdom's recent decisions. Princess Liliana relayed news that the kingdom, alongside the church, intended to brand Hajime as a heretic, even as Koki and the other heroes continued their battle against the demon army. Elsewhere, Hiyama Daisuke is seethed with resentment over Hajime's survival. His frustration was stoked by a mysterious woman who subtly manipulated him, igniting his bitterness further. Their agreement hinted at mutual benefits, but Daisuke was aware he would need to fulfill his end of the bargain. After narrowly escaping a fierce battle, Tio is reunited with Kaori and Miyu in the city of Enkeiji, where her injuries are treated, and the group regains a sense of calm. Meanwhile, Hajime awakens to the sight of the open sea, recalling their perilous escape from the depths of the Gruen volcano. A flashback reveals that after Tio's departure from the volcano, Hajime had acquired the ancient magic of spatial manipulation. Taking advantage of his new power, he summoned a submarine he'd crafted earlier. But the volcanic currents proved intense, pulling them deep into the earth. Despite the threat, Hajime's ingenuity and grit pulled him through yet another deadly encounter. Back in the present, Hajime celebrates their victory by having a much-needed couple time with Yue. Just as they end their deeds that are better done at night, a group of angry mermen surrounds them, accusing Hajime of kidnapping. As Hajime tries to explain, Tio, Kaori, and Miyu arrive, and the group shares an emotional reunion in the ocean's embrace. Together, they set course for the city of Irisin, Miyu's hometown. Once there, Hajime reunites Miyu with her mother, Ramaya. Grateful for Hajime's help, the widowed mermaid hints at the personality quirks of Miyu's late father, offering Hajime an opportunity to understand her family better. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, Shizuku crosses paths with her teacher, Aiko, who appears exhausted and distressed. Their conversation takes a serious turn as Aiko explains that the church has officially branded Hajime a heretic for his refusal to follow its commands. She confides in Shizuku about her concerns about the recent strange behavior of the king and other nobles. More troubling still, Aiko reveals that the god they worship has sinister intentions, a secret she learned from Hajime during a previous conversation. As night falls, Kaori looks for Hajime, hoping to spend some time with him, but Hajime, always the center of attention, decides to get a moment of peace. He heads outside, contemplating his next challenge. The following night, Hajime uses a powerful artifact he collected in the Gruen volcano, which shows him the location of the underwater labyrinth. They then use a submarine to get to the mysterious sunken ruins of Melusine. As the group explores the labyrinth, they encounter low-level monsters, which Hajime and his crew quickly dispatch. Buoyed by their success, Hajime can't resist boasting about how easily he handles these creatures. But their confidence is soon tested when a new foe appears, a powerful purple monster, clearly a more challenging adversary, sent by the god who has marked Hajime as an enemy. The creature has no obvious weaknesses, and after struggling to make any headway, the group is forced to retreat. During the chaotic escape, Yue, Shia, and Tio get separated from Hajime and Kaori. Left alone with Hajime, Kaori struggles with feelings of inadequacy. Now isolated, Hajime and Kaori find themselves trapped within an illusion of a fierce war, fighting against ghostly pirate warriors. After the harrowing battle, Hajime confronts Kaori about her behavior. He admits that Yue will always be special to him, and he suggests that if Kaori can't accept that, she might be better off moving on. Meanwhile, back at the palace, a dark turn unfolds as Aiko is kidnapped by a sinister nun with a devious plan. Meanwhile, Hajime took a moment to reflect on his relationships with Yue, Shia, and Kaori. Despite knowing how deep their feelings for him ran, he wondered if he could reciprocate. Shia remained cheerful and undeterred by his doubts, while Kaori's dedication seemed unwavering, yet Hajime knew that Kaori would need to decide for herself if she could continue on this journey. He resolved that if Kaori could not bear the path he walked, he would arrange for her safe return to her friend, Shizuku. Just then, Hajime spotted Kaori preparing to board a boat. Suddenly, an eerie vision appeared, revealing a past scene. Hajime warned Kaori to brace herself, as what she would witness might be disturbing. The vision unfolded a gathering where members of the demon and beast races celebrated together in harmony. However, the human king arrived, preaching unity, but soon shifting his words to incite division. Declaring all other races a threat, he ordered his forces to attack, invoking divine authority to justify the massacre that followed. The vision faded, leaving Kaori visibly shaken. Hajime comforted her, assuring her they would continue together. They resumed their exploration, but another illusion soon surfaced. As a gust of wind blew through, Hajime and Kaori were separated. Soldiers appeared around Hajime, and he swiftly dispatched them, cutting through the illusion's dangers. Once he finished, Hajime set out to reunite with Kaori. Not long after, Kaori reappeared before Hajime, but Hajime sensed that something was off. Kaori was being possessed by an evil spirit. Without hesitation, he aimed and fired a mana bullet at her. Though the spirit within her acted hurt, trying to mimic Kaori's genuine reaction, Hajime was unfazed. The spirit, panicking, warned him that any further attacks could harm Kaori, but Hajime calmly replied that his mana bullets wouldn't physically injure Kaori. They would, however, inflict pain on the spirit occupying her body. He knew the spirit intended to seize Kaori's soul, and as long as it remained unharmed, Kaori's essence could still be saved. Undeterred, Hajime launched a relentless barrage, determined to force the spirit to abandon Kaori's body. He taunted and threatened the spirit, his calculated cruelty making it clear that he would continue until it fled. Under Hajime's relentless pressure, the spirit finally succumbed, releasing Kaori and vanishing. As Kaori regained her senses, Hajime asked if she had truly committed to staying by his side. Kaori affirmed her decision with quiet resolve, explaining that even if Hajime never returned her feelings, she couldn't imagine leaving him now. Satisfied, Hajime accepted her answer and allowed her to stay. Together, they continued through the labyrinth. Eventually, they discovered a magic portal in one of the rooms. Stepping onto the circle, they were transported to another chamber. Here, Yui and the others, noticing that Hajime is carrying Kaori, rushed over, concerned about her state. Tio, unable to contain her curiosity, began bombarding Hajime with questions about what had happened between him and Kaori. Her interrogation was cut short when Yu shot her an icy glare, silencing her mid-ramble. Meanwhile, Kaori and Yue exchanged glances, each reaffirming their commitment to pursuing Hajime's heart. After this light-hearted exchange, Hajime and his companions gathered on the magic circle, which shimmered as they activated it. A goddess-like figure appeared before them, imparting words of wisdom before bestowing proof of their labyrinth conquest. Suddenly, the ground trembled, signaling danger. Hajime instructed Yui to use her magic to transport them out of the collapsing space. They arrived safely in another room, only to be greeted by a familiar foe, the jelly monster they had once been unable to defeat. But just as the creature prepared to strike, Leifman, their unusual ally, arrived unexpectedly and distracted the monster, buying Hajime enough time to ready his most powerful weaponry. While Hajime set up his attack, Leifman kept the creature occupied, chatting amicably with Shia. Once prepared, Hajime launched a devastating assault, obliterating the jelly monster in a single, decisive blow. As the dust settled, the scene shifted to the Divine Mountain, where Aiko lay asleep in a prison cell. In a darkened corner, a shadowy figure muttered that Aiko's captivity was necessary to remove her from their master's plans, as her presence was interfering with his goals. Meanwhile, during a quiet meal, Hajime reflected on his recent adventures, particularly the time spent at the coastal city of Erison. He realized that it was time to move on, yet he hesitated, wondering how to break the news to Miyu. After dinner, Miyu and the others played cheerfully, oblivious to Hajime's inner turmoil as he cleaned and maintained his weapons, contemplating how to say goodbye. Remiya, Miyu's mother, approached him, having sensed his dilemma. She gently reminded him that he couldn't avoid telling Miyu the truth. Yue and the others, understanding Hajime's conflict, were also concerned for Miyu, knowing how attached she had become to him. Remiya reassured Hajime that Miyu would understand, though the separation would be hard. Encouraged, Hajime resolved to discuss the matter with Miyu later that evening. That night, he gently told Miyu that they would be leaving Irizen the following morning. Though saddened, Miyu bravely accepted his decision, finding comfort in his promise that he would return for her once his mission was complete. He assured her that, when the time came, he would bring her to his world in Japan. Overjoyed by this vision of the future, Miyu hugged him tightly, her sadness replaced by excitement. Remiya soon joined them, inviting Miyu to help prepare their final dinner together. Afterward, Hajime discussed his plans with his companions by the dock, where he shared his vision of taking Miyu to Japan someday. Just then, Miyu appeared and cheerfully reminded everyone to join her for dinner. Together, they all headed back to the house for a heartfelt meal. The next morning, Miyu bid farewell to Hajime and his companions, handing out small, handmade amulets as parting gifts. After exchanging hugs and promises, Hajime and his group finally left Arisen. The scene shifted to the capital of Haley Kingdom, where Princess Liliana was seen running through the palace halls, haunted by news of Aiko's kidnapping. She confided to herself that there was no one left in the kingdom she could trust, not even her father, King Haley, who had been acting strangely. Meanwhile, in her cell, Aiko questioned the nun who had imprisoned her, asking about her students and why she was being held captive. Coldly, the nun dismissed her questions, stating that Aiko was no longer relevant to their game and therefore didn't need to know anything. Elsewhere, Freed had assembled his army, ordering them to prepare for war. After his speech, his forces mobilized with ruthless efficiency. At the same time, Commander Meld and his second-in-command, José Rancaid, worked to organize defenses and contain the troubling spread of dark magic affecting their troops. Though a new threat loomed, Meld insisted on keeping Hajime and his friends out of this particular struggle, knowing that Koki, the young hero, was already facing difficult challenges. Quietly, Meld penned letters to Duke Zengen and Hajime, leaving behind messages in case the worst should happen. As Commander Meld worked in his study, Daisuke, one of Hajime's former classmates, appeared at the door requesting a private conversation. Once inside, however, Daisuke said nothing, his gaze unreadable. A moment later, Josie entered and without warning, struck at Meld. When Meld evaded the blow, Daisuke took advantage of the distraction, stabbing Meld in the side. Surprised but quick to react, Meld retaliated, narrowly escaping through the window. He attempted to cast a spell, only to find himself paralyzed by the effects of the injury. Outside the house, Meld encountered an angel-like girl who prepared to put an end to his pathetic life, and moments before his death, Meld hoped that Hajime would make things right in this kingdom. Elsewhere, Hajime and his friends spotted a group of bandits harassing villagers. Without hesitation, they rushed to intervene. Hajime swiftly dealt with the bandits, dispatching them without mercy, while Kaori tended to the wounded villagers. Soon after, Princess Liliana approached Kaori and they began talking. Hajime joined them, only to accidentally offend Princess Liliana by not recognizing her. Disheartened, Liliana began to tear up, and Kaori quickly reassured her that Hajime was simply not all there mentally. Laughing softly, Hajime then asked why Liliana was so far from the palace. She revealed the shocking news of Aiko's kidnapping, explaining her desperation to find trustworthy allies. With no one she could rely on in the capital, she had set out to find Hajime and his companions. Taking pity on her, Hajime allowed her to join them. They piled into the car, and as they traveled, Princess Liliana revealed the troubling situation within the kingdom, mysterious incidents, betrayal among trusted officials, and her father's strange behavior. As she spoke, Hajime listened attentively, but his commitment was not to the kingdom. He was only doing this for Aiko. Meanwhile, in her prison cell, Aiko sat in quiet contemplation, trying to make sense of the strange events unfolding around her. She couldn't help but think that Hajime was the key to solving her questions, yet doubts clouded her thoughts. Suddenly, she heard his voice, and, to her astonishment, Hajime appeared in her cell. He swiftly removed the mono-restraining bracelet from her wrist, freeing her from its binding magic. Aiko expressed her gratitude, and Hajime led her out of the cell. Before they could make their escape, a divine messenger named Noint, a follower of the god Ahit, appeared, declaring Hajime to be an anomaly that she intended to destroy. As Noint approached, Hajime's masked weapon sprang into action, firing on her to keep her at bay. Despite her immense power, Noint was unable to land a blow on Hajime, protected by a powerful shield of his own making. Enraged, she summoned enormous flames, hurling them at Hajime and his friends. Hajime's shield held steady, though the blast rattled the area around them. Amid the chaos, a haunting chant echoed through the air, a spell from the Holy Church. Hajime felt a strange sensation in his body, and Noint explained that her god desired Hajime's removal from this world. Hajime challenged the logic of this decree, asking why, if this god wanted him gone, he hadn't simply sent him back to his world. Noint responded coldly that the god desired not just Hajime's absence, but his suffering and death in this world. She unleashed another attack, more furious than the last. Hajime's shield cracked under the pressure, and just as it shattered, Tio rushed in, launching a burst of flames at Noint, throwing her back. Taking advantage of the distraction, Hajime asked Tio to get Aiko to safety. Reluctantly, Tio obeyed, taking Aiko to a safer distance. As they fled, Aiko insisted on helping Tio, stating that, despite her gentle appearance, her magic skills were on par with Koki's. To prove her determination, Aiko bit her hand, drawing blood to use a spell. Using the symbols she wrote with her blood, she amplified her strength. Recognizing Aiko's resolve, Tio accepted her help, and the two prepared to fight the approaching enemies together. Meanwhile, Hajime continued his battle with Noint, finding it difficult to penetrate her defenses. Noint dodged each strike and retaliated with fierce counters, but Hajime finally landed a blow, injuring one of her wings. Seeing his chance, Hajime attacked relentlessly, striking again and again until Noint's broken wing caused her to plummet to the ground. Victorious, Hajime rejoined Tio and Aiko, who praised Aiko's impressive contribution. With her assistance, they proceeded to dismantle the Holy Church, vanquishing all who stood in their way. Horrified by the destruction, Aiko felt overwhelmed with guilt, and tears filled her eyes. Hajime comforted her as best he could, while Tio noted that a figure was approaching them. The stranger instructed them to follow, leading them to an ancient ruin where a magic portal lay hidden. Stepping into the circle, they were transported to a small chamber. There, Hajime found an old book detailing the requirements for conquering the Divine Mountain. Only someone who lacked faith in gods had conquered at least 2 labyrinths and had defeated those under the influence of divine powers could access the Divine Mountain secrets. Realizing he met all the criteria, Hajime prepared to claim his proof of conquest. Aiko urged them to head quickly to the capital, knowing monsters were already attacking. Meanwhile, at the palace, Shizuku and her group received urgent news from Nia, her maid, reporting a massive invasion by the demon race. Recognizing their limited strength, Nia advised them to seek out Commander Meld for assistance. When Shizuku and the others approached Josie for information on Meld's whereabouts, Josie misled them, claiming he was occupied elsewhere. Suspicion grew among Shizuku's group, but they kept their doubts quiet. Josie presented a crystal ball, its blinding light momentarily disorienting them and exposing their position. As soldiers advanced, only Shizuku managed to avoid capture. Watching from a distance, an unknown woman laughed, delighted by the turn of events. She approached Shizuku, revealing herself as Eri Nakamura, a former friend. Shizuku was stunned as Eri toyed with a mana restraining bracelet around Koki's neck, revealing her true intentions. She confessed she had always wanted Koki for herself, but had been prevented by worthless distractions like Shizuku and the others. Now, with them out of the way, she could finally have Koki to herself. Shizuku demanded to know why Eri hadn't simply confessed her feelings, to which Eri replied that her love couldn't be so easily expressed. For Eri, Koki was too precious to share with anyone else, and she was willing to go to any lengths to remove everyone in his orbit. As a necromancer, Eri had gained the twisted ability to turn corpses into puppets under her control. Demonstrating her powers, she killed Rishi, transforming him into an obedient dolls. Horrified, Shizuku confronted Eri, who sneered that she had been sick of pretending to be Shizuku's friend. She prepared to strike, dismissing Koki's pleas for mercy as she advanced on Shizuku with her blade. But before Eri could deliver the fatal blow, a barrier appeared, and Kaori's had arrived just in time. Annoyed, Eri turned to face Kaori, who joined forces with Princess Liliana to strengthen the spell. But their defense was shattered when Dazuke appeared, feigning innocence only to turn on them. He struck Princess Liliana and fatally wounded Kaori, piercing her chest with his sword. Despite her injury, Kaori managed to complete her spell, enabling her friends to escape just before Eri's dolls could overwhelm them. Amid the chaos, Hajime arrived, intervening before Eri could cast another spell on Kaori. He punched Daisuke, sending him sprawling. Turning to Tio and Aiko, he entrusted Kaori's care to them, then advanced toward Eri, who hid behind Commander Meld's puppet. Riichi lunged at Hajime, but was repelled by a shield, allowing Hajime to swiftly dispatch Meld. With his firearm in hand, Hajime decimated Eri's puppet army, giving Shizuku's group a chance to evade the gunfire. With the dolls destroyed, Hajime approached Eri, pointing his gun at her head, but before he could fire, Daisuke intervened, shouting that Kaori belonged to him. Hajime laughed, mocking Daisuke's failure to win Kaori's heart, then proceeded to beat him mercilessly, throwing him from the building. Daisuke's body plummeted into a horde of monsters waiting below, sealing his grim fate. Nearby, Tio reported that Kaori's condition was critical. If she didn't receive immediate treatment, she wouldn't survive, and she lamented that Yue wasn't there to help stabilize Kaori. Just then, Fried appeared, taunting Hajime by reminding him that he couldn't protect everyone while fighting off his enemies. Hajime remained calm, pulling out a small black stone and activating it. His ultimate weapon emerged, a powerful mass destructor that obliterated Fried's forces in moments. With deadly intent, Hajime warned Fried that anyone standing in his way would meet the same fate. Furious, but realizing his defeat, Fried swore vengeance, vowing that their next encounter would end differently. Taking Eri with him, he disappeared. Soon after, Yue and Shia arrived, and Hajime directed them to assist Tio and Aiko in saving Kaori. Determined, Tio carried Kaori up the mountain, where they would have the best chance to treat her. Before leaving, Hajime reassured Shizuku, promising to bring Kaori back safely, and he encouraged her to stay strong and protect the others. The next day, Princess Liliana carefully documented the recent events in the Haley Kingdom, her mind swirling with everything that had transpired. Meanwhile, Hajime made his way to the top of the mountain to reunite with Yue and the others. Sensing Aiko's lingering sadness, Yui urged Hajime to speak with her. When he found Aiko, Hajime encouraged her to let go of her sorrow and regret. His words moved her, and he assured her it was okay to cry, offering her his back as comfort. Aiko broke down, finally allowing her pent-up emotions to pour out. Elsewhere, Princess Liliana warned Koki of something descending from above, and he immediately instructed everyone to clear the area. Spotting Hajime nearby, Shizuku asked him about Kaori. Hajime reassured her that Kaori would be there soon. Moments later, Kaori arrived, but with a strikingly different appearance. Koki, not recognizing her silver-haired form, almost attacked, but Shizuku immediately recognized her friend. Confused, Shizuku pressed Hajime to explain. Hajime described an ancient magic that enabled soul transfers, revealing that Kaori had been given a new body. Shizuku asked why, and Hajime explained that Kaori's original body was unharmed but had been preserved with ice magic for safekeeping. Kaori herself had requested the change, wanting a stronger form. Despite finding Kaori's decision extreme, Shizuku wasn't entirely surprised, given her friend's tendency for bold choices. Accepting it, she resolved that as long as Kaori was safe, that was what mattered. Later that evening, Hajime and his group gathered for dinner. Soon, Shizuku and her team joined them, and Shizuku took the opportunity to ask about Hajime's plans. Hajime shared that they intended to head east, where another labyrinth awaited. Realizing this meant passing through royal territory, Shizuku asked if she and her group could accompany him. While Hajime agreed to escort Princess Liliana, he initially resisted the idea of taking the entire group. However, Shizuku and the others insisted, explaining their desire to learn ancient magic to better protect themselves and their friends. With everyone urging him, Hajime eventually gave in and agreed to let them join. During the meal, Yue began feeding Hajime, setting off a playful competition among the other girls. Though he felt a bit awkward, Hajime allowed Kaori, Shia, and Tio to take turns feeding him. Shizuku watched with a hint of discomfort, unused to their dynamic. At one point, Tio teased Hajime by asking for a special gift, only for her request to turn unexpectedly bold, embarrassing Hajime. He urged her to avoid asking for anything that might be misunderstood, but Aiko playfully noted that any misunderstanding seemed unlikely between Hajime and Tio. In the end, Hajime reluctantly agreed to humor Tio, but her request grew overwhelming, and she ended up enlisting Shia, Yue, and Kaori for help, resigning herself to her own playful folly. As dawn neared, Hajime gazed up at the sky, his thoughts turning to Miyu. Yui joined him, and Hajime shared how eager he was to complete their journey and return to bring Miyu home. Soon after, everyone began preparing to leave. Shizuku, her friends, and Aiko arrived, ready to set out, and they all left together. That's all for today's recap. For more thrilling stories and updates, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications on our latest content.